Okay, so moving from one view to another is kind of an important thing. And there's a few ways of doing that that are really cool. So, as you can see right now, my perspective and all the other ones are kind of small. It can get kind of tight to work in, although it's kind of nice sometimes because, let's say, if I want to do something here and just see the front of an object versus the top of an object while doing something in my perspective, that's a kind of a nice thing to see. But sometimes I just want to be able to focus in on one view. It's a little bit easier to work a little bit bigger. Well, a couple ways I can do that. So one is that I can go down here and I can find the Maximize Viewport Toggle tool. Okay, so click on that one and you can see this one is selected, this viewport, my perspective is selected. But if I click on this, boom, it becomes a lot bigger. Isn't that nice? Okay, can pan around in there just by pushing down my wheel. I can zoom in by rolling my wheel. I can zoom in by pushing down my Control and Alt keys and holding down my wheel and getting a much smoother zoom. And I can rotate by pushing down my Alt key and the wheel, rotating things around. Okay, so that's one way of doing it with that toggle back and forth. And I can do that with any of my views. Another way of doing it is just to hold down the Alt key and the W key at the same time. And you can see that will also go back and forth between views. Okay, so when you're in a particular view, let's say we're in the front view or the top view, we could change that view. Remember when we went up here to the default shading, it was originally wireframe, we hovered over it, we got the drop down menu and changed it to default shading. There are other menus that do other things as well. For instance, here where it says front, if you hover over that, you can come down to perspective, get another perspective view. You could go to the bottom view, which is not normally one of the ones that we have here. You could go to the right hand side, which is another view that we don't normally have. Another thing that you could do is you could select one of these here, let's say my perspective view, and I'm going to go Alt W so it becomes big. And I just really needed to look at, let's say, the top view real quick. I can use a keyboard shortcut, and it's very easy. It's T for top. So push down the T key, and you can see now I've got my top view. If I wanted to go back to that perspective, I could go P for perspective. F would be front. L is left. Now there aren't keyboard shortcuts for all of them, but for your main ones, they definitely do have those. So once again, you could go T for top, F for front, L for left, and P for perspective. I'm going to go Alt W and go back to my 4 views. Alright, looking pretty good. I'm going to just change this back to perspective. And I'm going to change this back to front. That way we can be set up pretty much like it was when we first came in. So that's how we can zoom around from one viewport to another. We can toggle. We can go Alt W. We can go to the drop-down menu. Or we could use a keyboard shortcut such as T for top or P for perspective.